If you're a runner that's been struggling with Achilles tendon pain for some time now, and you've tried rest and stretching and ice, and the pain just doesn't seem to go away, it's likely you're addressing the wrong problem. You see, most runners misdiagnose Achilles tendon pain as an inflammatory condition. And that one factor could be the reason why you haven't recovered the way you hoped. In this video, I'm going to teach you all about Achilles tendon pain, the science of why it happens, and tell you exactly how you can start addressing the right problem to get back to running as soon as possible. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Kevin Vandy, physical therapist and running specialist with Competitive Edge Physical Therapy. And I'm on a mission to reduce running injuries worldwide so runners everywhere can end pain, improve their performance, and do what they love as much as possible. So thanks for tuning in. Let's start with the basics. What is the Achilles tendon? As you can see from this picture here, the Achilles tendon is the extension of your calf muscle. Your calf muscle runs on the back part of your leg and then forms into a tendon called your Achilles tendon that then attaches to your heel. It's the big tendon you feel right in the back of your ankle. Now, what does the Achilles tendon do? Why is it so important? If you think about it, your calf muscle is pretty darn strong. In fact, it can lift your entire body weight really easily. Imagine trying to lift all your body weight with your biceps. It'd be a pretty impossible task. Your calf, on the other hand, and your Achilles tendon, they work together and can easily lift your body weight, can easily help you jump and run. It's a very important muscle for runners. It helps with stabilizing the ankle, providing power, providing a spring to your step, and helps you run faster. So yeah, it's pretty important. And when it's painful, it can really hamper your running. I get that. I've had it before, and I have firsthand experience of exactly what it feels like. One of the reasons why I want to make this video for you today. So what happens when the Achilles tendon gets injured? Oftentimes tendons, which again are an extension of a muscle, get injured because of overload. You've put too much work through it, or too high of an intensity through the tissue for too long with inadequate rest. That leads to tissue degeneration, tissue breakdown, and leads eventually to pain and injury. When it comes to running, this often presents as a sharp increase in mileage, a sharp increase in running speed, or a lack of rest, meaning running too often, too many times per week. Now, that's different for everybody. If you're a collegiate runner or a master's runner, you're probably running 60 to 100 miles a week. If you're a recreational runner, you're maybe running 10 to 15 miles a week. So what's considered too much is different for everybody. The general rule is somewhere between 10 to 15% increase in mileage per week to stay in the safe zone. If you go above that, that is where a higher injury risk occurs, meaning you've progressed your load or volume on the tissue too much. Every time you exercise, your muscle works hard and it needs to recover. Sometimes that's as little as a few hours, and sometimes it's as much as a couple days. So even if you stack too many workouts on top of one another with inadequate rest, that can also lead to tissue breakdown. When looking at research, the majority of times runners develop Achilles tendon pain is oftentimes for too sharp of increase in volume, and more importantly, inadequate rest. They're training too much and too often. Maybe you found yourself in that same boat. With the Achilles tendon, when you have too much volume or inadequate rest, inside the tendon you'll have a disorganization of the properties of the tendon itself. So instead of it being a nice, smooth, straight tendon, you may feel a bump on your Achilles, or it may feel thicker than the opposite side. That is an indication that the tissue has been overworked, overloaded, and needs to recover. That disorganization of the properties of the tendon also makes the tendon weaker. When that occurs, every time you go out and run or do a calf raise or do a strength workout in the gym, you have less strength than you previously had. That then creates a cycle where you have inadequate rest, damage to the tissue, it's no longer organized in the most efficient manner for power production. That makes it weaker, and then it starts the cycle of high injury risk. You have an injury, and rinse and repeat, and rinse and repeat. And that's a large reason why many runners stay injured or continue to have pain with Achilles tendon problems. They never solve the right issue. This is what gets us into the whole tendonitis versus tendinosis debate. The terms you'll hear, oh, I have Achilles tendonitis. And most often, the advice from your doctor and friends, maybe even other runners, is to ice, stretch, foam roll, and take time off. Now, runners out there, it's the last thing you want to do, right? You don't want to take time off. You don't want to be away from the sport you love. I get it. Sometimes it's necessary, but most often it's just changing the volume, not so much taking complete rest. But that's all assuming that the Achilles tendon pain you're having is an inflammatory condition. Here's the thing though. Most studies will show that if you've had Achilles tendon pain more than 2 weeks, it's likely no longer an inflammatory problem. It's a weakness problem, meaning the tissue, the Achilles tendon itself, is not in an optimal state, and it needs strength training to make it better. It's not going to respond to icing, it's not going to respond to rest, may or may not respond to stretching, which is a good thing, right? It means you don't have to take time off, but it does mean you have to do the right drills in the right ways to restore the quality of tissue within your Achilles tendon. So what are the symptoms of Achilles tendon pain? You'll most likely have pain the first thing when getting out of bed in the morning. You'll feel really stiff in your ankle and in your foot, and you'll not want to push off the front of your foot to walk. You'll take hobbling steps by stepping on the middle part of your foot. That's a telltale sign that you have an Achilles tendon injury. Another symptom is that it'll be painful to the touch. If you pinch the Achilles and you start at the top and pinch all the way down, and it's tender and painful, that's also a sign that it's an Achilles tendon injury. Some of the early signs will be that when you go out and run, it'll hurt at the initial part of your run, the first half mile to mile. Then the pain will go away, and then it'll come back again about an hour after you're done with your workout. That is a very common pathway for Achilles tendon pain, or any tendonitis, tendinosis for that fact. Now you hear me mention two words, tendonitis and tendinosis. Itis implies inflammation, which now we know is not part of most Achilles tendon problems. So you'll likely read online that Achilles issues are a tendinosis, which means a chronic degeneration of the tissue, non-inflammatory. Again, naming is just semantics, but if you happen to be someone who likes to research these things and you want the best information, you want to search up research regarding Achilles tendinosis or Achilles tendinopathy. Those are the two things that are going to give you much more valuable information than the standard rest ice that everybody prescribes, but really, honestly, doesn't work. The other major symptom that you're going to feel is weakness in your calf. Remember, the calf becomes the Achilles tendon. When you have weakness in your calf, you've lost one of the major players, one of the major muscles you use when you run. And losing the strength of that muscle can drastically impact your ability to run fast, your ability to run hills. If you're a forefoot runner, the ability to land on your foot, that's a massive calf action. When you don't have that, that'll impede it. And for those of you that are heel strike runners, as you transition into the front part of your foot, that'll also impact your ability to do that without limping or causing other changes in your running gait. So those are the main symptoms you'll feel with Achilles tendon issues. Now, if your Achilles tendon is thickened, it's wider than the other Achilles, if it has a bump on it, that's a sign you've had this issue for some time. And like if you took a bungee cord and you separated all its fibers, the bungee cord would be very weak. Whereas if the bungee cord is thin and strong, that creates a great pull ability of the bungee cord. Your tendon is very similar. You want it to be thin and relatively stiff. Now I know that sounds like stiffness is a bad thing, but for tendons you want them to be stiff because they carry load and they take the action from your calf and they move that load into the bone to move your ankle and help you run. So you want it to be thin and a little bit stiff, meaning like to the touch, stiff, not loose, and strong. And that is a key part of Achilles rehab that most people overlook. So if Achilles pain is not an itis, it isn't an inflammatory condition, then what do you do to fix it? Great question. Most people, again, will rest, they might change shoes, they might get a massage, all good, and can help with pain in the short term. But it's not the best way to fix Achilles tendinosis. The best way is to restore the strength to your calf and your tendon and repair the quality of the tendon itself. And research shows there are a few great ways to do that. The first way is through isometric strengthening. Isometric means the tissue's not moving, so you're staying still. Imagine doing a calf raise but just holding it at a portion of that motion. Isometric strengthening has been shown to reduce pain, start to reorganize the properties within the tendon, and aid in reloading of the tissue in a safe way that doesn't cause additional injury. So you can start with body weight, meaning just holding a calf raise position. If that's too painful, you can do it seated, or you can unload it by pushing off of a desk. But you want to start with isometrics because that's going to decrease your pain and help to remodel the tendon. If you can, you want to load up a decent amount of weight. A backpack with maybe 15 to 30 pounds works really well. Come up into a mid to full height calf raise and hold it. Hold it till you fatigue, rest, do it again, do it 2 to 3 times a day. For about a week or 2 weeks, that will significantly reduce your Achilles tendon pain. The second phase of healing an Achilles tendinosis is high load, meaning a lot of weight, low speed strengthening. So very slow, but very heavy. So you want to either be under a squat bar or holding some heavy dumbbells or kettlebells, wearing a weight vest, but then doing slow calf raise exercises. Now, the weight varies depending on how much you weigh and how strong you were in the first place. So you want to find the weight that doesn't cause pain while you're doing it, but feels like a pretty heavy load that you can tolerate doing somewhere between 6 to 15 repetitions for. That slow, heavy loading is what mechanically is going to remodel the tendon to handle the forces that act on you during running, which is somewhere between 2 and 2.5 times your body weight. So yeah, it's quite a lot of weight. It's okay to go heavy and go slow. You're not going to injure yourself, and most of the time it does not cause additional pain or injury to the tendon. In fact, it works the other way, that the strengthening itself reduces your pain. That phase can last a while. That phase can last anywhere from 2 weeks to about 12 weeks, 3 months or so. Again, if you've had pain more than 2 weeks already, the degeneration and tissue disorganization within the tendon takes a while to remodel, but it's worth doing because you're going to be addressing the right problem. So that's phase 2. And then phase 3, you want to start to add in speed. Running happens fast, 170 to 180 steps a minute. So you want to do exercises where you're skipping, jumping on one leg, doing jump ropes, doing single leg box jumps, plyometric ability to add speed to calf work. That can help transition from rehab back into running without damaging the tissue. Now, the final piece to think about is how you transition back into running. You don't want to go from doing no running back into running the mileage you used to. You want to gradually load back into running. So you want to start with running maybe at 25% of where you were prior to injury. Start there and see if that causes any soreness an hour after you're done or the next morning. If it doesn't, you can start to progress 10 to 15% per week till you're back up to your previous distance. I know that seems like it's going to take a while. It will, but it's going to make it so the tendon can adapt to the training you're providing it versus getting right back into the same cycle of overloading the tissue and causing a problem. Again, you want to take your time with this. You want to reload the tendon gradually. You want to give it time to get strong. Ways that you can continue to stay in shape while you're going through the recovery process. You can use an Ultra-G treadmill or an anti-gravity treadmill. Look at your local PT or sports performance centers and see if you can rent time by the minute to offload 50, 75% of your body weight. Continue to run so you're loading the tendon gradually during the strengthening phase of your rehab. You can also do pool running, biking, swimming. Again, I know it's not running, I know it's not ideal, but the key is to keep your cardiovascular fitness up. So when you do go back to running, you are ready cardiovascularly, and all you need to do is wait for the tendon to remodel as it goes through your training. So let's review. Achilles tendonitis is the wrong term. For 80 to 90% of people that have Achilles tendon pain, there is no inflammation. So stop rest, stop icing, and stretching. If it isn't working, you probably stop that too, unless it feels good, and go ahead and do it. But the ice and rest, taking pain medication is not going to solve your Achilles tendon problem. You need to strengthen your tendon, which means isometrics, so high weight holding drills in a calf raise. You need high load, low speed strengthening, and then you finally need plyometrics. And then gradually transition back into running, 10% per week, starting at about 25 to 30% of your previous volume. That is how you can get fully recovered from Achilles tendinopathy, how you can end the pain cycle, you can get back to running pain-free, you can start to add speed, sign up for races. You can recover from Achilles tendinopathy. It can happen. You just have to address the right problem, and addressing the inflammation is not the right problem. Addressing the strength is the right problem. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I went pretty deep on Achilles tendon science and what it is and how to make it better. If you've been dealing with Achilles tendon pain for some time and this helped, drop a comment below and let me know that it helped. And additionally, ask me any questions you have about your Achilles. Be on the lookout for additional videos on the exercise and rehab that I recommend for overcoming Achilles tendinopathy. In the meantime, be on the lookout for my future videos. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to know that my future videos are coming out. When they're coming out, thank you so much for watching. It means the world to me. Until next time, guys, train smarter and perform better.